The third session of Living Our Faith. Sacraments as a way of engaging the mystery that is God's presence, a strengthening of our faith. I draw on fresh inspiration from Paul's writings to the church in Rome and to the church in Corinth, the celebration both of baptism and of Holy Communion. And so we need to recognize first and foremost that all of life is sacramental in response to the principal sacrament, who is Jesus Christ. In other words, all of life holds before it the very possibility of revealing to us the sense of God's mystery, majesty, and awe. Each moment, the moment of an encounter with a stranger, the moment of an encounter with nature, the moment of an encounter with a loved one can prove sacramental if approached in a sense and open to the possibility of grace that surprises, renews, transforms, and enlivens us. And yet the church in all its struggle, and yes, we need to recognize that there are a variety of perspectives. The church has struggled with the sacraments down throughout the ages, from its earliest simple beginnings through to a fairly developed sacramental framework, and then again through a period of reform to a return to an attempt at a return, I should say, to simplicity. I simply want to draw your attention to baptism and the Eucharist. Firstly, baptism is an invitation into a participation into the suffering, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is a sense of being immersed in the love of God, the love that overcomes evil, the love that overcomes apathy, the love that overcomes all our resistance and plunges us into that sense in which we know that we are beloved sons and daughters of God. Jesus was baptized, and so the church appreciates the gift of baptism and continues. There are a variety of practices regarding baptism. The vast majority of the church tends toward baptizing infants in response to the grace of God, and there are a variety of explanations and teachings around that. And there is a growing sense in the church that we need to honor and appreciate as well what one would call adult baptism, or in some circles, believers' baptism. In other words, an emphasis on response. When and where and how should we respond to the grace of God? But whichever mode, whichever form, there is an invitation to recognize that baptism offers us in Jesus the one who is water, the one who is life, the one who is able to forgive and cleanse and heal and renew and invite us into participation in a community. The community of the baptized, the community of those who are able and willing and longing, no matter how badly, to say yes to the way and will of God. Baptism is thus important. I personally don't remember my own baptism, but I recognize its value, and I have, as a minister of Word and Sacrament, the rich privilege of baptizing predominantly young children into the life and the witness and the continued worship of the community of faith. Secondly, Holy Communion. It's known by a variety of names. Probably the dominant sense is that of Eucharist, of giving thanks, because Paul reminds us that on the night in which Jesus was betrayed, he took bread, broke it, gave thanks, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat, this is my body." After the meal again, he took the cup, gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins." There are obviously various ways in which this happens, but Eucharist is an opportunity for us to give thanks. There are other elements to communion. Holy Communion, a sense of being drawn into the presence of God. Breaking bread, the simplicity of discipleship. The sense of honoring and acknowledging the self-offering, sacrificial love of God made real in Jesus Christ. The sense in which we try and grapple with the presence of Christ in a variety of ways. There are so many different understandings of whether that happens in the worshiping community, whether that happens via the tradition that has been passed down to us, whether that happens in the heart of the believer. The most important thing is that we participate, that we become those who are prepared to come to the table, not because we are worthy, not because we are deserving, not because we've got it all together, but because we need a meal to sustain us in the life of faith. And so as we live out our faith, we live it out in response to the sacraments. It is the invitation to love, to allow God's Spirit to lead us, to be open to renewed vision of what it might be to be those transformed by God's continued engagement in water, bread, wine, and then to explore and indeed to engage our faith as those who are prepared to live it out day by day and moment by moment. We live out our faith. We are sacramental. Amen.